And welcome to another edition of Cyclone InCYders alongside Matt Van Winkle. And this week, Jeremiah Davis joined us from the Iowa State Daily. We're going to once again talk men's basketball here at Iowa State. Big game tonight down in Austin. Last time we checked at the 8-minute timeout, 13-13. So maybe not a bad thing that not many people here in Iowa, probably nobody actually is seeing the game on the Longhorn Network.
Too bad, really. It's a shame. I mean, the Longhorn Network, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but if they're not going to distribute it out to the public, especially here in Iowa, fans want to watch the game, not just here. It's
if nobody can see it, I don't know why the network exists.
They're hiding it.
Yeah. Definitely. So we'll keep in tax on that game as well. In our second segment, we'll take a look at the women's basketball team. Picked up their first, actually, Big 12 conference win. And then like we always do in the third segment, we're going NCAA tournament time, working our way towards the brackets, and one undefeated team remaining, and the Murray State Racers, that's who that is. Well, actually, one winless team remaining, and that's Binghamton. So won't touch on them as much, but let's get things started right now, Matthew. So 2 straight wins for Iowa State men's basketball, and in historic fashion with Scott Christopherson, knocking down a three-pointer to beat Oklahoma State and really gave them momentum going down to Lubbock.
Scott Christopherson has been playing absolutely great basketball as of late. And another guy that's been playing almost even better than him is Tyrus McGee right now. And we've been talking, Tyrus, he's a junior, and he actually earned the Big 12 Rookie of the Week this week. And just playing really great basketball. He had a big game down at Texas A&M and a big win down there. And Jeremiah, I don't know, did you watch that game? What did you think of Tyrus's play?
Well, he's playing the best out of anybody on the team right now. I mean, beyond maybe Scott and Bryce White's always going to be consistent for you, but he's really found his shooting stroke. He's 11 of 20 in those last 2 games, 55%. I mean, shooting 55% from beyond the three-point arc is always a good thing. Yeah. And I mean, he's their energy guy. He's the sixth man off the bench that when they need that spark that they find a lull in the game, Hoiberg will put him in and he's their man.
And this is a team that really lives and dies from the three-point line.
Absolutely.
And every game they've been in or leading or won at some point, they've been leading in three-point category as well. So anytime this team, they're shooting a bad percentage from the three-point range, they're probably not going to win this game. And I don't know what their numbers down at Texas are right now, but Tyrus McGee has been playing absolutely great, shooting the 3 ball well, as Scott Christopherson has been.
Last I checked, but they are down 21-15 at the moment, and both teams were combined 0 of 9 from the 3-point range.
So this would actually be pretty historic here for Iowa State. 0-13 actually since 2005 on road games down in Texas, and this year they're 2-0, picking up a win down at Texas A&M and Texas Tech. So 3-0. Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and Texas would be very huge and maintain pace with probably the top 3 teams in the Big 12 easily, Kansas, Missouri, and Baylor. And they've got a big chance Saturday to really move up those standings when Kansas comes to town.
And let's not forget they had 2 wins in Texas against Providence and Rice, I believe, down there in the South Padre Invitational. So Texas has been pretty good to Iowa State this year.
Well, the win, if they can get a win tonight, that'll be a huge barometer for the rest of the season because Texas is 11-1 on the season at home, and since I believe 2005, I can't remember the year exactly, but they were like 104-13 at home. So they play really well at home, and I don't care what kind of Texas team rolls out. If you can win at that arena, you've got something going.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Tonight is huge. And also, coming up Saturday, another huge game. Maybe a little revenge. Really had a chance down in Lawrence earlier this season, up double digits 3 times in that ball game. Yeah. And Iowa State, like Kansas, going a 30-9 run, and really that kind of put the game away for the Jayhawks. And now they come back up here. It's kind of nice this year, kind of get revenge with the 2 teams leaving the Big 12 with Nebraska and Colorado. What do you guys see Saturday as number 5 Kansas comes in undefeated in the Big 12? And 16-3 overall. What's Iowa State got to do if they're going to pick up a win?
Well, Iowa State really made a big statement coming into the Big 12 schedule, beating Texas at home. That was a huge win. And I think when they went down to play Kansas was an even bigger game because they proved that they can play with one of the best teams in the nation. They didn't necessarily win the game. They played very good. And I saw some stuff out of that team that I haven't seen in a long time from an Iowa State basketball team. So I think that was a big win. It's going to be even tougher for Kansas, though, at Hilton Coliseum. Anytime they come to Ames, it seems like it's a great game.
Well, whether they're at home or not, I think they're still going to have to play their best game of the year to beat Kansas. So Kansas is always going to be one of the best teams in the country. They always seems like they always have that next guy. They had the Morris twins, and now they have Thomas Robinson. And Tyshawn Taylor, who's been up and down throughout his whole career at Kansas, is now all of a sudden. He's a light for them. He lit up Iowa State in the second half, 22 points, and if they're going to have to stop him, the duo of him and Thomas Robinson is going to be lethal. And if they can't stop him, or the combination of them, but they're not going to get a win.
And what it came down to in Lawrence was rebounding, especially offensive rebounding for Kansas. I think Iowa State was really outnumbered in that game. We look at the numbers here on the screen. Iowa State shooting on the season, 75 points per game, 45% from the field, and Kansas not too far away, 48%. Both teams shooting around the same 3-point percentage as well. But I think what it's going to come down to in that game is going to be rebounding. And because Iowa State, really, Royce White has been their big factor down low. Anthony Booker really hasn't done much down low. Jordan Raley really hasn't produced much this year. I thought he would be kind of an impact player this year, but he really had some troubles in the offseason, and Fred just hasn't been playing him much. But I think if Royce White can have a good game and somebody else can step up, and maybe, Chris Allen's been down there fighting hard for rebounds too, and I think it's going to come down to rebounding in this game. What do you think, Darren?
Definitely. I also think Chris Babb needs to really step it up. He's really been struggling the last few games, and he was really kind of the spark that Iowa State needed. And before we got to conference play, they got him a decent record going in. Yeah. So he's going to really have to pick it up. And Tyrus McGee's also going to have to be that sixth man that's going to come off and consistently knock down 3 or 4 three-pointers for you if Iowa State's even going to have a shot against Kansas on Saturday.
Well, you hit it on the head with the rebounds. They've only been out-rebounded 3 times in the season, and they out-rebounded Kansas at Fog Allen. That's huge.
Yeah.
But tonight, they're not shooting very well. Yeah. Chris Babb hasn't shot very well. If you crash the offensive boards, you give yourself a chance to get second chance points. And this team has they've been rough around the edges with the fundamentals, free throw shooting, rebounds, stuff like that, even though they have out-rebounded everybody except for 3 teams. So it's that core stuff that if they can do that, they'll be fine.
We definitely touched on it earlier. The guy you have to stop for Kansas regardless is Thomas Robinson. He's coming in averaging 17.7 points per game in just 30 minutes and shooting 54% from the field, which is pretty decent numbers for a big man down low. What does Iowa State have to do? Do they put Royce White on him or to battle with him down low, or what do they have to do to slow him down?
Well, I think what they did at Kansas was pretty effective. They had Melvin Edgem on him to start with, and then they would rotate over as soon as he got the ball and double him.
Just a zone,
Yeah, and it worked. He only had 1 point in the second half of that game. Yeah. And that tells the tale right there. If Tyshawn Taylor doesn't go off for 22 points, who knows what happens. Yeah. But they cannot put Royce White on him because he's going to get in foul trouble immediately.
Yep.
You got to keep Royce on the floor.
That's been the problem all season long, and I think you're right. I think his zone would be good. I think if Kansas saw what Iowa State played against Robinson in the first game, so they might try to change things up. They'll probably adjust as the game goes along, but we'll see. It's going to be a great game on Saturday.
Tyshawn Taylor, like you stressed, killed Iowa State down Lawrence. Maybe switch Chris Babb on him for a couple series. They put Babb on Relford down in Lawrence. Relford wasn't effective, so. But then again, Babb, Keaton Page got open against Chris Babb, so I don't know all about that. But let's pull up the Big 12 standings right now as we take a look at them. Kansas atop the standings, number 5, 6-0. Missouri, who I honestly think might be the best team in the Big 12. Number 2, they'll have a big showcase up against Kansas here in about a week or so. 5-1, and Baylor dropped down to 4-2, tied with Iowa State. So there's really kind of break-off levels here. Top 5, bottom 5. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's right. I mean, that's about how I thought the schedule would be at this point. I didn't think Iowa State would be at 4 wins and 2 losses on this point in the season. I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule and you see some big games coming in for Iowa State. On the road at Kansas State coming up is a huge game. On the road at Oklahoma is a huge game. On the road at Oklahoma State is going to be another big game. And I think for us to have a chance at getting to the NCAA tournament, we're going to have to win some of those games against those lower seeded teams because the games we played haven't been necessarily close. We did handle A&M and Tech pretty well, but you can't let any team go. And I think for us to make an even bigger statement, we're going to have to at least beat maybe Baylor or Missouri. So.
Well, the team has to capitalize on the wins they should win, which they've done so far.
Sure.
And they've got to beat, to make the tournament, they've got to beat somebody they aren't supposed to, quote unquote, aren't supposed to.
And win.
Yeah, I mean they've got to. Yeah. It's got to be a Kansas or a Baylor, or that Baylor at home in the last game of the season is the one that's got to be circled because it's like 2 years ago they beat Kansas State on the road because by that point theoretically Baylor's going to be resting guys for the tournament because they're going to be in it. So it's a prime position for the Cyclones.
And you look at the Cyclones' non-conference schedule. They had a couple ugly losses, a couple ugly games against Drake. UNI lost there. It was not a great non-conference.
No. They did not blow people away.
Exactly. So they're going to need to have one of those big wins, maybe against a Baylor or, like we said, a Kansas coming up on Saturday. So
it'll definitely be interesting to see how this works out. But we got to take our first break here on Cyclone InCYders. Coming up next, exciting times maybe for the women's basketball team getting rolling, picking up their first Big 12 conference win over a ranked Texas Tech team. And they got a tough one down in Manhattan, Kansas. They battle Kansas State tomorrow night. Don't change that dial. We'll be right back on Cyclone InCYders. Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders alongside Matt Van Winkle. I'm Aaron Bauer. I want to thank Jeremiah Davis for joining us in our last segment. Right now, Matt, we got to talk about the women's basketball team. And what was it last week we were talking about right after that A&M game, which was probably their lowest of lows this season. There's been many. Yeah. But then that Saturday, they went down to Austin, Texas, and played a decent game against Texas. Only ended up losing by 2. Come back home on Sunday and knock off number 17, Texas Tech, and really looked like a changed basketball team. Got great performance from sophomore Hallie Christopherson, who had a season-high 19 points. So what's the future hold for Iowa State?
Looks good right now. I mean, they started off the Big 12 schedule 0-5, which was just heartbreaking for this team. Not used to seeing a Bill Finley coached team start off 0-5, the worst start in the Bill Finley era, but really nice to see the Iowa State women's basketball team get that win at Texas Tech at home with the whiteout. It was just a great environment there on Sunday. 66-49 was the final there. As you said earlier, Hallie Christopherson kind of broke out of her shell, had a great game off the bench as well. And I think I heard Coach Finley spoke after the game, and he said that maybe it's nice to see have Hallie just sit on the bench and watch the game unfold for the first few minutes. I think she was kind of getting rushed and a little bit nervous, having the sophomore jitters, but obviously they had a big 3 there, and I think she scored 19 points in the game, season high for her. She just had a great day.
And you saw how the team struggled early in the Big 12 season. In the first 4 Big 12 games, Matt, she had 14 combined points.
Yeah.
And then coming out and knocking down 19, and good things happen for this Iowa State basketball team. Pick up a win over a very good Texas Tech team who is struggling now, dropping 3 of their last 4 in the Big 12. But as we keep moving forward through this season, they do have a chance really to turn it around and possibly end up a decent seed in the Big 12 tournament, and maybe, maybe, if they really get things going, they still got a shot at the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
And they got to get right down to business by taking care of Kansas State tomorrow night.
You know what? Iowa State had one of the toughest starts to a Big 12 conference than any team in the conference. They played a couple ranked teams, pretty much all on the road, too. They only had like 2 games in their first 6 conference games, so really tough schedule for Bill Finley to start the season. But this schedule gets a little bit easier, and this team is building confidence. And we saw in the Texas Tech game, Christopherson had a good day, and it kind of was contagious. She kept shooting the ball, and as you see there, Chastity Cole hit a big 3 at halftime to give the Cyclones a pretty decent lead going into halftime. It was a contagious day on the field for the Cyclones, and Chelsea Poppins actually only scored 10 points, but you know what? She contributed 15 rebounds, really working hard for this team.
Definitely, she's going to be the hustler out there. She's going to dive after the loose balls and be really the typical Bill Finley type of player Iowa State's become accustomed to having. And if we can pull up the stats real quick for the game tomorrow night down in Manhattan, Kansas. Kansas State really has a true point guard in Brittany Chambers, and she's averaging nearly 16 points a game. If Iowa State's going to find a way to win this game, they're going to have to shut her down. And Kansas State, they really need this game too if they're going to keep pace in the Big 12 as well.
Yeah, Iowa State really needs to keep moving forward. As we look at the stats here, Iowa State averaging just about 63 points per game. Kansas State almost around 60. So these teams are pretty evenly matched. As you said, Aaron, Kansas State's 4-2 in the conference, so they've been doing a little bit better than Iowa State has been as of late. As you said, it's a big win for them too. It's Iowa State on the road. Kansas State wants to protect their home court and the Octagon, so the Octagon of Doom, excuse me, as they call it down there.
As they like to call it down there. We pull up, you're looking at Brittany Chambers' numbers right now, 15.9 points per game, 34% from behind the arc, only 36% from the field. So it's obvious where she likes to do most of her damage, and that's behind the arc.
Yeah.
How's Iowa State going to defend her? Do they put Moody on her? Who do they put Mansfield on her? How are they going to slow her down?
You know, Lawrence Mansfield has been playing great lately. I think she's probably going to get the start down there in Kansas State. I think you're right. I think they put Lauren Mansfield there on the corner. She's got great defense. really quick on the floor. I think if she can contest the shot out there, Iowa State has a good chance of containing her. And as you said, she's going to be the factor in that game. If Iowa State can contain her, Iowa State continues to shoot well from the field, because that's what Iowa State offensively has been lacking. Shots haven't been falling for them, and it's been really tough.
And the hardest win, you always hear, the hardest wins to get the first one.
Yeah.
They got that first win behind their back,
Yep.
and now they have a real good chance to pick up a second. And as they move through the week to Saturday, they get Texas A&M back again, and that's going to be a tough one down at College Station. But if you can win your next 3 games, you're rolling, and this is about the perfect time you want to have you don't want to play a hot basketball team if you're anybody else in the Big 12. And if anybody knows how to motivate a team and get them excited to play, it's Bill Fenley.
Oh, yeah.
If you take a look at the stats here for the Saturday's game against Texas A&M, Texas A&M number 14 in the nation, averaging nearly 72 points per game and shooting 42% from the field. Iowa State's really going to have to come in and try to slow the pace down, which they didn't do last time when the teams met in Ames.
And we've been talking about this all season long. The Big 12 schedule does not get any easier, and it doesn't get any easier on Sunday either against number 14 Texas A&M. Iowa State, they need wins right now, and if they want a chance to get to the tournament later in the season, they're going to have to get a few of these wins on the road. It's really too bad that they can't be at home after that big win on Sunday, but go on the road for 2 tough road games. This is really going to be a challenge for this team.
And, this is really where you find out the character of your team. Yep. This is where you've got Chastity Cole and Lawrence Mansfield, the 2 seniors. This is really their last hurrah, the last time through the Big 12 schedule, and they need to find a way to bring this team together and bring up the freshmen like Moody and Bryn Williamson and the sophomore even Hallie Christopherson, because they haven't really been here before. They haven't had struggles, had a decent year last year, and all these girls, I guarantee you, had awesome careers in high school. So they're not really used to this losing kind of thing. So as seniors, you really need to come up and bring your team and perform well.
And they did exactly that on Sunday. Coach Finley said after the game that they really needed to be seniors in this game, and they were seniors. And outstanding performances by both of them. Had some big threes. It was really nice to see Chastity Cole hit some big threes, especially that one at halftime. Really pumped up the crowd. And it was just a great environment at Hilton Coliseum. Let's pull up the Big 12 standings right now. We see Baylor, obviously, the number 1 team in the nation at 6-0 on the season in Big 12. Kansas right behind them at 4-2. And we got Texas A&M on Sunday, and they're at 4-2 in the conference. Iowa State, not an offer in the Big 12 standings right now. They're 1-5. Missouri, though, the offer 0-6. So
definitely a little surprising. Kansas up there, second in the Big 12. I expect them probably to drop as we continue moving through the season. Baylor and Texas A&M, I expect to go 1-2. We got to hit our second break here on Cyclone InCYders, but first, a little update from the men's game. Iowa State trailing at halftime, 28-22 to Texas. So haven't really seen this from Iowa State lately. Usually they perform well in the first half. Let's see if they can get it together and pick up a huge Big 12 road win down in Austin, Texas. Coming up after the break, NCAA basketball heading our way to the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about Syracuse going down as well as a new number 1 in the RPI standings. Stay tuned. You're watching Cyclone InCYders. Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders alongside Matt Van Winkle. I'm your host, Aaron Bauer, and segment 3 of 3 tonight's episode, NCAA basketball. Real exciting last week. Maybe saw some things nobody expected. Syracuse going down to Notre Dame, as well as Kentucky moving up to number 1 in the standings, and Missouri up to number 2. What'd you think of Syracuse? I remember last week I looked back at our show, and you predicted Syracuse go undefeated through the Big East, but that's nearly impossible. Big East is a very tough conference, and they ended up dropping one to Notre Dame.
Yeah, and it was a great game, too. Syracuse dropped that one. I might have cursed them, though, saying that they were going to go undefeated, but as you said, the Big East is a very tough conference. It's a grind, and pretty much all these big conferences, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East is probably one of the best conferences in college basketball right now. It's going to be interesting to see, how Syracuse comes off of this loss, and if they continue to improve into the tournament as well.
And they definitely they came off the loss on the right foot, taking care of Cincinnati last Saturday. They dropped in the rankings to number 3 and a new number 1 atop the rankings out of not one of those conferences you mentioned, actually, Kentucky at the top of the rankings, and a similar name to see up there with incredible freshmen. But Lamb, the kid who's leading the Wildcats right now, came back to play for the Wildcats once again, and they're sitting at the top of the rankings, 19-1. Missouri, maybe a little surprising, 18-1, kind of flying under the radar. That only loss where they got blown out by Kansas State earlier this year. And Syracuse drops to number 3, Ohio State up to 17-3 and number 4, and the Kansas Jayhawks, who come to Hilton Coliseum Saturday, coming in at number 5. What do you think about Kentucky, Missouri, 1-2 right now?
I'm going to agree with you. I think Missouri is a surprise at number 2. I was kind of surprised to see Syracuse jump from 1 to 3 just after that loss. But it's really a toss-up. I think any 3 of those teams could be the number 1 or number 2. So it's kind of a toss-up. But the big surprise to me on this season so far is to see Duke with 3 losses. And it's been kind of interesting for them because they've had a couple losses on the road, and I think there was one at home as well.
Just last Saturday, they lost Florida State.
Exactly, Florida State. Just a tough loss for them. And kind of surprised me to see them ranked in the top 10 right now. I don't think they're playing their best basketball right now. Duke seems to be playing their best basketball into the tournament, and that's when they usually perform well. So
definitely, you see North Carolina 7-8. If they're not just having awful seasons, you're going to expect them to be ranked in the top 25, kind of like Texas in football. Might as well just ride them into the top 25 voters. Maybe not top 10. I agree with you. But if we look back and break it down, maybe into conference standpoints. 1 SEC team up top, 3 Big 12 schools in the top 10, 2 ACC, 2 Big 10, and 2 Big East. So is it safe to say maybe that is the Big 12 the best conference in basketball right now?
I think they are. I honestly do. I think you got Kansas, Missouri, Baylor, absolutely. Baylor. Thank you. I'm really excited to see this Duke North Carolina game though, because I'm looking at the NCAA rankings right now, and you see 7-8. Both with identical records as well. I can't wait for the ACC conference game, but I think the Big 12 is probably the best conference in the nation right now, and I think the ACC is close behind, and the Big East is probably right in there too.
And as we continue to move through February and into March, it's on everybody's mind. Who are going to be the number 1 seeds? Where is everybody going to fall? Who's going to get in? Who's going to be out? Last 4 in, last 4 out, and all that thing. And then you still got maybe on the outside, everybody's forgetting about. There's still an undefeated team in America right now, and that's the Murray State Racers, 20-0 on the season. And they've got maybe not the toughest test coming up on Saturday, hosting Eastern Illinois, who is 9-9 on the season out of the Ohio Valley Conference. So Murray State, 8 games remaining in the regular season, then the Ohio Valley Tournament. Like we mentioned last week, do you still think they make it unblemished?
Well, I thought Syracuse was going to go unblemished, but really anything can happen. And we mentioned this last week, is that any team can have a bad game at any point. They could have one slip up and then get that first loss. And I think if they do get 1 or 2 losses in their conference schedule, they'll definitely drop in the seedings. I'm going to bring up Iowa State really quickly. Earlier this week, Joe Lunardi had them predicted at the play-in for the number 12 seed for the play-in for the NCAA tournament. So Iowa State has a good chance to make it this year. What do you think, Aaron?
No, definitely Iowa State. This is the best chance since 2005, last time they were in the NCAA tournament. But like we said in the first segment when Jeremiah joined us, you've got to pick up a signature win right now, and they had incredible chances to do that with Missouri coming to town and Kansas on the road. So like we said before, you got to win your games that you're supposed to win, and you can't have any more bad losses. Those 2 losses to Drake and UNI are really, really hurting Iowa State right now. But you got to remember the team, that was their first time they were ever playing basketball together. Regular season, Royce White's actual first career collegiate game. So it's interesting to see. Now you're kind of seeing them gel. Once again, losing right now down in Austin at halftime, 28-22. But I think Joe Lunardi has it right now, right on the head. I think they do play that play-in game for. I think it's the 11 seed actually. They play 11
something
seed
like that, 11
play-in game. So really, they'll play the 6 seed if they would win that play-in game. How do you see it?
I think it's great. I think if Iowa State, I think you're right. If they can pick up a big signature win, maybe against Kansas later this week, or maybe even a Baylor or Missouri. We see Missouri ranked 2nd in the nation right now. I think you're right. They do need a signature win to kind of clean that non-conference schedule blemish. The UNI Drake mess we had. But I think Iowa State does have a really good shot to make the tournament this year, and it's a fun team to watch, and I think a lot of fans are excited.
And it's almost for the selection committee. It's almost what have you done for me lately kind of thing. Where if you go in and you win a big game on the road, you win a big game that you have at home. that second game of the season loss to Drake, it's still going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt you nearly as much if you don't pick up a 6 win.
And they also look at the RPI right now. And I think Iowa State's somewhere around 35 of their RPI right now. And we mentioned the Big 12's conference schedule is just brutal. And I think Iowa State has a great shot tonight to beat Texas, only down 6 at halftime. Just shooting awful from the field. Last time we checked that score again, we'll throw that out, 28-22. The score down there in Austin, Texas. Iowa State trailing. I think we saw they only hit 1 3-pointer in the first half. Texas was 0 for 7 from the field. So both teams not shooting well from behind the arc. We'll see if Iowa State can improve that in the second half.
Definitely. If they're going to win tonight in Austin, it's obvious they're going to have to knock down their free throws late in the game, because this game's going to be close. It's one of those feelings where Iowa State's going to come back, and then it might be bucket for the last 2 TV timeouts, and then it might honestly be who has the ball last. And free throws are going to play a big part in who comes out with the win.
Absolutely.
We've seen a half real quick here before we wrap things up tonight. Does Iowa State pull it off tonight?
I think it's going to come down to the final seconds. Let's hope for Scotty Christopherson to hit another big shot, maybe Tyrus McGee. I think Iowa State pulls it off, maybe in overtime, maybe end of regulation. So I think they're going to pull it off, maybe by a 3-pointer.
I'll agree with you. I think Iowa State goes to 5-2 on the Big 12 season, going into Kansas on Saturday here at Hilton Coliseum. Quick reminder here for you ISUtv fans, tickets for the Nick Offerman show coming up in early February. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for a chance to win those tickets, courtesy of ISUtv and the Student Union Board.
All you got to do is give us a new slogan. Right now our slogan is Turn Us On. We're looking for a new slogan, so if you got a good idea, comment on Facebook or reply to us on Twitter, and that's the show, I think.
2 weeks now into the semester, and 2 Cyclone InCYders down. We'll be back with you next Tuesday night, same time, same place, Studio B, 8:30, right here on Mediacom Channel 18, ISUtv. Have a good night.